everybody and welcome. I'm Andy Collins and this is Game Over. Now today's show is dedicated to driving. Now instantly I thought, great, we're going to be in Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Porsches. Oh no. One of you lot emailed in and said, hey, why don't you get Andy Big Boy Collins going on some go-karts? So here I am at Bob's go-karting circuit in Chelsea, getting a damn good thrashing from these young blokes. But I'm going to get back into the race. So while I carry on racing, you lot check out the news. Come on.
We like a good scrap at Game Over, so it's a giggle seeing WWF Attitude and Ready to Rumble. The latest World Wrestling Federation licensed tie-in, and sadly the last for Acclaim, features 40 of your fave grapplers and the voice of Jerry the King Lawler. Another Dreamcast teaser is Ready to Rumble. This is a visually stunning punch-a-thon with the most mismatched boxers ever. Don't let this put you off though. Already it's jabbed the Game Over office into a slugging brawl over whose game it is next. Forget Rumble in the Jungle, this is serious. Eagerly anticipated PlayStation driving game Gran Turismo 2 is going to be late. The reason Polyphony Digital gave Game Over was that it is now arriving on 2 CDs to make room for the huge number of European and American cars they want to include. Annoyingly, they also touted a price rise. Again, Game Over comes up trumps with your first in-action shots of hot new Dreamcast games. These include Snow Surfers, an updated and new name for Cool Boarders DC. Trick Style, a futuristic boarding sim which is more a combo of snowboarding and Wipeout. Toy Commander, a bonkers in-bedroom flight action game which defies description. Finally, Red Dog, an incredibly addictive multiplayer 4-player tank-blasting romp. All of these are nearly finished. No sooner has EA thrown FA Premier League stars out of the door, left it sitting pretty on top of the charts, then FIFA 2000 appears. This classic footy game has had a quick refit, a lick of paint, and added plenty of new features. Here's a quick taster before we go into serious detail in a future show. 5 years and $20 million spent in development, and Yu Suzuki's epic tale of a boy, his growth in China, and his father's death still isn't finished. We, of course, are talking about Shenmue. Recently, Game Over came into possession of stunning new footage leaked from Japan. Feast your eyes on this, and hope it doesn't take another 5 years.
Right, I can't talk right now because I'm in a very, very, very close race. So you lot take a look at the features. Come on then, come on.
Sick. Beneath contempt. Ban this sick filth. Just a few of the words thrown at the game Grand Theft Auto on its original release 3 years ago. But despite the uproar, GTA remains darkly humorous with a blasé attitude to video games violence. Now, to coincide with the release of the sequel, publishers Rockstar have produced this lovely little film of the game movie. So what's new for GTA 2? Full-on gang warfare, that's what, in a huge, living and breathing, urban hell. You play the familiar role of freelance driver come hitman come violent scum. But in GTA 2 you have a choice of 7 different crime syndicates to commit thuggery for. And given these crims don't like each other much, a bit of strategy is demanded on your part as you play one off against the other. The Yakuza hate the Zaibatsu Corporation, the Zaibatsu hate the Hare Krishnas, and the Krishnas hate the Yakuza. The rednecks hate everyone except close family and Elvis. It's a vicious circle, but you'll have to tread carefully or else find yourself with a bullet in the head. As if life wasn't awkward enough, the good guys are no longer simple shoe shufflers. Irritate the Rozzers, then you have to avoid SWAT teams. Sneak off from them and you'll be shadowed by the FBI. Dodge their attentions and you'll face the army. And believe me, tanks are no laughing matter. Even the pedestrians, bonnet fodder in the original, go about their own thing and often get right in your way. If you're not careful, you could be the one getting mugged or discovering someone's jacked up your motor and departed with the wheels. Like the original, GTA 2 focuses on AI rather than superfluous polygon count. The top-down view remains because, according to Rockstar, it's a chase game rather than a driving game. You need to see what's in front as well as who's behind you. Game Over will take a more in-depth look at this maim, kill and destroy frenzy soon, but for the moment, relax in the knowledge that if GTA 2 is half as much fun as Grand Theft Auto, we'll all be violently happy.
So, this is our driving special show. So we take a look at the Dreamcast. It's the new kid in town and all its driving games that it has to offer. Take a look at this.
The PlayStation seems to be the only console worth considering if you're a driving enthusiast. Tarmac screeching classics like Ridge Racer Type 4, Gran Turismo and Driver prove this. The N64 suffers badly in comparison, with only a few titles like F-Zero X and World Driving Championship being worthy of consideration. Now, however, it's time for Sega to throw their hat into the arena with the imminent arrival of the Dreamcast. The new machine has already proved it can cater for beat-em-up fans with the likes of 2D King of Fighters 99 and Marvel vs. Capcom, as well as the superb 3D Power Stone, Virtua Fighter 3 TV and Soul Calibur. However, Sega and its third-party developers haven't overlooked the massive popularity of the driving game genre, and some truly awe-inspiring games are set to arrive. First up is the conversion of the blockbusting coin-op Sega Rally 2. The title includes all of the arcade tracks and cars, as well as dozens of impressive new courses and hidden vehicles to find. New modes of play include a challenging 10-year championship, the obligatory time attack, and 2-player split screen, as well as 4-player network multiplayer action. Other worthwhile additions include extensive vehicle tweaking options and a variety of weather effects not available to arcade goers. Buggy Heat continues the off-road racing style of Sega Rally 2, but in a more simplistic fashion, as opposed to Rally's in-depth simulative approach. Sporty saloons and hatchbacks have been replaced, however, by the likes of dune buggies, monster trucks, armoured people carriers, and the occasional turbocharged Super Mini. Tracks offer plenty of variety, ranging from steep, sandy hills, muddy mountain tunnels, and hazardously bumpy gravel terrain. Tweakable car settings and 2-player split-screen multiplayer action once again adds the icing to the cake. Moving away from rallying is Ubisoft's title Monaco Grand Prix Racing Simulation 2. It's not the newest of games, having already appeared on the PlayStation, PC and N64, but the Dreamcast version is looking very promising. Everything an F1 fan would need, including the tracks and cars, is here, as well as the selectable options of arcade or simulation driving styles. But the most interesting addition to the title is the retro mode. Players get to select insanely difficult handling racing karts to drive over a variety of impressive yet fictitious tracks. If you think you're a bit tasty around Monaco in your modern Ferrari, then this mode will certainly provide a lasting challenge. If you're still not satisfied, then stay glued to your sets for a look at Metropolis Street Racer and Tokyo Highway Challenge after the break. For now though, it's back to Andy.
I'm just waiting for the green light. Now, while this is our driving special kind of show, our assassins are going to be taking a look at Tiberian Sun, which is like a Command and Conquer game, which has got no cars in it whatsoever, but there we go. Anyway, have a look at what the assassins have got to say. Me, I'm racing.
Command & Conquer Tiberian Sun is the latest in the record-breaking CNC line. But is it too little too late? Or have Westwood conjured up another winner?
When you've been waiting for something with bated breath for so long, you can do one of two things. You can either pass out or pass on. Unfortunately, Command & Conquer Tiberian Sun isn't the sort of game you want to pass on because you might miss out on something. Unfortunately, you don't.
The whole game revolves around the sci-fi struggle between the good guys, the GDI, and the sinister Brotherhood of Nod, who, for some years now, have been tooling up in sci-fi tanks and heading out onto blasted lunar landscapes to kill each other in every which way they can. For you, that means that you command a huge range of units ranging from cyborgs to enormous tanks, sending them out across battlefields, backing them up with reinforcements which you build in your construction yard, and generally killing the hell out of anything that moves.
The first major change that you notice is the on-screen graphics, the little tiny tanks, etc. They're all voxels, which means they're 3D this time. It spins around a little bit better and it's not so static. It doesn't actually help the gameplay, but it does look a little bit nicer.
What's particularly cool are the Tiberian units who will either come along and mess things up for you, or who in some cases you can form alliances with. These include the Pit Fiend, who bears a striking resemblance to the Sarlacc pit in Return of the Jedi, who will suddenly pop up and drag your men kicking and screaming into its guts, or the Forgotten, who are a strange green race of beings who live on the planet.
Now, of course, when the original Command & Conquers both came out, they were the yardstick. Everybody was looking to Tiberian Sun as pushing that yardstick a bit further, but unfortunately we've had Total Annihilation, we've had StarCraft, we've had these amazingly brilliant real-time strategy games, and this is just another one of them. It is superb, but it doesn't actually eclipse anything.
If you're a fan of the series, you won't be disappointed, and if you're new to it, you will find that the tip-top level design, superb range of units, and tweaked to perfection gameplay will not disappoint. Looks brilliant too, an absolute classic.
Join us in part 2 when we'll be taking a look at Speed Freaks and one of the most eagerly anticipated of our rally games. We'll see you in 2. To part 2 of this driving special edition of Game Over. Now, it's the second of our previews. The game is called Metropolis. Now, they say it's the Gran Turismo for the Dreamcast. It's British designed, yes. And here at Game Over, we took a look at it. Take a look at this. Can't catch me!
Metropolis Street Racer has a lot to live up to. Developers Bizarre Creations, previously responsible for the early Psygnosis published PlayStation F1 races, are promising big things from their debut Dreamcast title. Already the game is arguably the most visually stunning racer ever created, with some truly amazing graphics that showcase the Sega console's capabilities. Features include massive free roaming tracks and dozens of selectable convertibles from the likes of Mazda, Honda, Alfa Romeo and Mercedes. There are 9 courses planned for the final release, and these will be based on actual real-life locations. Japan, America and England will make up the main areas of the game, with easily recognizable scenery from cities like Tokyo and London. Bizarre Creations are aiming to create the most realistic racing game ever devised. Dreamcast owners will be able to judge for themselves this November. Another racing game featuring real cars and locations is Tokyo Highway Challenge. The title has been developed by Genki, the team behind the impressive Virtua Fighter free TV conversion for Dreamcast. Highway Challenge is an interesting cross between a classic racing title and a beat-em-up. Players have to hunt out adversaries while cruising the infamous Shutuko Tokyo Highway. Once an opponent is found, a flash of headlights signals a challenge, and first speedy motorway battles commence. Once this happens, 2 energy bars appear at the top of the screen, and whoever is leading in the race drains energy from the trailing car until eventually one victor remains. There are over 20 basic models available to test drive, and these range from Nissan Skylines to Mercedes SLKs. Bonus is the ability to upgrade all the cars to ludicrously turbocharged levels. Graphics are up to Genki's usual high standards, with realistic car models, beautiful neon-lit Japanese surroundings, and super smooth frame rate. Tokyo Highway Challenge won't be a launch title, but should appear on Dreamcast by October.
Okay, time now for our main feature. Rosie went up to Cheshire to take a look at this new rally game that's in town. It's called the Rally Championship. And here's her report. Go on, go on, go on. Yes, yes, yes. Ah! I'm beating you. You made me 8.
There's loads of rally games on the market at the moment, but there's a new one called Rally Championship, which everyone is really excited about. Anyone who's had a look has said it's absolutely fantastic. So game overs come up to Brereton Hall in Cheshire to find out what all the fuss is about. International Rally Championship fired up the Rally Champ series for Europress so long ago that you might think they'd all be racing in Ford Model Ts. It was time for an overhaul. But just how do you go about that? Well, you could try inviting the likes of Natalie Barrett in to help you tweak your game engines. She's the UK's #1 female driver. Though she certainly doesn't drive in anything as wussy as women-only races, Rally isn't gender segregated. She's burned rubber the world over in her custom-built four-wheel drive Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 6. How does it feel when you're driving in these rallies?
Fantastic. It's great. There's nothing else like it. Or there isn't for me anyway, because it's never the same. And you can be hurtling through a forest and think, oh my Lord, how close are those trees? But on gravel, the car just always feels unstable. In a front-wheel drive car, you know, it tends to understeer, which is when you turn in for the corner, the car doesn't necessarily want to go around it, and it might want to go straight on. That's why you often see drivers using their left foot for left foot braking. Braking sometimes a problem. The car can lock up and go straight on. Not so good.
As your conditions and surfaces change, what sort of things do you have to change in the driving? What do you have to take into account?
If it's wet, for example, on tarmac, you have to be aware that the car might aquaplane. Snow is always tricky. It always catches people out. You just, you know, back off a little bit because you've lost the grip completely. You know, the grip's not there. And driving in the fog is a big issue.
That's an awful lot of action to try and squeeze into a game. Pity the developer who would try. Well, Natalie may be queen of the ride track, but personally, I'm much happier inside, comfy seat, cup of coffee. I found Rick Banner, executive producer of Rally Championship. He's going to tell us a bit about the game. So, Rick, Natalie's just been telling us about the thrill she gets from rally driving on the track. How have you tried to capture that in your game?
Well, Rose, we spent 2 years developing this game. We've gone to great lengths to create a very special rally experience for game players. We've been to all the car manufacturers, photographed all their cars, hundreds of photographs per car, modelled the cars inside and outside, and we've also gone to all the stages, which no one else has ever done before.
Not content with accurately mapping the location of every worm and thistle to be encountered on the trail, they have, of course, brought in professional drivers. We've met Natalie Barrett, but who else is involved with the game?
There's Tapio Laukkanen, who's the current British Rally Championship winner, and there's Martin Rowe, who was last year's winner, and many other drivers, Dave Higgins, Mark Higgins. Well, they've come into the offices and sat down and they've said, oh, this car doesn't brake as much as it should do. So we've actually changed it there and then and said, oh wow, that's spot on.
There's an awful lot of rally games on the market at the moment. You've obviously spent a lot of time on this one, but what do you think that Rally Championship has that other games don't?
The cars in Rally Championship can be damaged, so the car can get indented and bits can fall off. So the wing mirrors, the bumpers, the bonnet can fly off. This all affects the way the car handles. So if you damage the front right, then the car will start pulling towards that side. Well, we've got some really fantastic weather effects in the game that have never been done before. From rain, landing on the windscreen and refracting the light properly, and also moving depending on the speed of the car. You can take shortcuts if you can find them. There are rivers, there are lots of little areas that we've never been able to do before because of the amount of detail we can put into the stages.
But given the nature of the licence, all of these environments are in the UK rather than the Corsicas and Swedens we're used to in other rally titles. Do you not think that's a handicap?
No, I don't. We found that all the different locations like the Isle of Man, Ulster, England, Scotland, Wales had great diversity. So you have nice open forests compared to, say, Ulster, which is all tarmac, open country, and the Isle of Man, the coastal stages and lots of narrow tracks for you to really rally down.
The game is vast. You can drive all 420 miles of the race's 36 stages. It's also got in-depth sim management modes. If your vehicle is damaged, you'll need to make decisions about exactly what to repair, with only a limited amount of time allowed in the garage. But what about those who'd rather just charge dangerously around the track without stopping to think about such realism fags as damage and maintenance?
Well, we've catered for them as well. We have an arcade section which they can just load up and start. In arcade mode, you're looked after a bit more. You make mistakes and you damage the car, it's not going to affect it too badly.
So you can just jump in and burn off if that's what tickles your fancy. The PC version's due out October, the PlayStation and Dreamcast versions early next year. But for a final verdict on the game, we turn to somebody who really knows.
It's realistic and the graphics on it are fantastic. You know, I can recognise stages that I've been through. You know, I can look at it and go, oh, is that so-and-so? And it is. So it's good.
Now, when it comes to four-way driving games, there is only one king, isn't there? Mario Kart. Well, not anymore, because people say there are two games on the PlayStation that they say can take the crown off of Mario King. Now, one of them is called Crash Team Racing. We'll be taking a look at that later on in the series. The other one is called Speed Freaks, and the Assassins, well, they took a little gander at it.
Everyone has tried it, and everyone has failed. That is, to create that elusive Mario Kart beta on the PlayStation. Is it possible? Enter contender number 12-ish with Funcom's Speed Freaks.
Speed Freaks is the latest in a long line of games that are queuing up to be the PlayStation's answer to Mario Kart on the N64. It's got incredibly bright colours, it's got cutesy characters with big eyes, it's got stupid power-ups all over the place, and it's got a 4-player mode.
Now, the graphics in Speed Freaks are very cartoony. They're very much like the Moto Toon series of games a while back, with big heads and tiny little carts. And the reason why I like this, and I prefer this to, say, them trying to go for a slightly more realistic feel, is that you can do really wacky and stupid power-ups and really wacky and stupid things to each other.
The characters in here are basically a bunch of deformed kids with big heads. You've got all the classroom stereotypes, from the little nerd to the brainy kid who's developed an ultra-high-tech kart. The problem is, well, they all look kind of the same. There's no personality here.
Another thing about Speed Freaks, of course, is in the title. It is very quick indeed. It moves along at a fair dinkum rate, and you don't notice any flicker in the screen. The graphics retain that nice look about them. They're very colourful, and they even retain that when you're playing 4-player. Now, get this, 4-player on a PlayStation.
Mario Kart has won a lot of fans because it's got superb multiplayer capacity. Speed Freaks really loses out on this. In the 4-player mode, there's just not enough to hold your attention. The power-ups in Speed Freaks tend to be things like bombs, oil slicks, and machine guns, things that you've seen hundreds of times before.
Another thing about most games, and Speed Freaks certainly explores this avenue, is you get little bonuses and little extra bits of track to go and find. So if you've completed the game once, you can go back, you can find extra little bits that you never saw before. It generally helps if someone stood over your corner and points them out as you're going. But nonetheless, it gives that game a little bit of a longer lastability. At the end of the day, it oozes playability, and for me, that's